Okay, and where are you going to be November 12th at 3 p.m.?
I'll be there, but if it doesn't ring at 3 on the dot, I'm gone.
Don't worry. It's going to ring.
Yeah.
Oh, good. You're there.
Hey guys, Kiwi here. Huge warning of spoilers for Breaking Bad, El Camino, and Better Call Saul up to Season 6, Episode 11. In this video, I'll be breaking down Gene's phone call to Francesca, with the show finally giving us the long-awaited answer to the mysterious phone call that Saul set up with Francesca in the Breaking Bad flash forward way back in Better Call Saul Episode 405, Quite a Ride. Like the video if you end up enjoying it, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter for more Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad updates. With that being said, let's jump right into the breakdown.
Give me the lowdown.
There's nothing else.
Well, that's not true. After all this time, come on, just fill me in.
So we start out by catching up with Francesca in the Gene timeline as a landlord, and seeing any character we recognize from the past, such as Francesca at the Disappear in black and white, is always really exciting. Francesca looks at the clock and she says that she has to go as it's currently 2:05 p.m, and the phone call that Saul set up for her happens at 3 p.m. Back in the 405 cold open that featured the Breaking Bad flash forward to Saul clearing out his office, he reminded Francesca where she should be November 12th at 3 p.m. Francesca said that she'll be there, but that if it doesn't ring right at 3, that she'll leave. Saul assured her not to worry and that it'll ring. November 12th just so happens to be Saul Goodman's birthday, and he arranged a mysterious phone call for Francesca to take during it. This created a ton of theories within the fandom who would be calling Francesca and why, and the answer was right under our nose the whole time. It was Saul himself who was going to call her, which explains why Francesca was so bitter and reluctant about it. In this episode, we finally get the answer to the question which we've been waiting for since September of 2018 when episode 405 first aired. We see Francesca on her way to take the phone call and she watches to see if she's being followed, which we learn why in just a moment. This also reminds me of Kim being paranoid about being followed in episode 604. Fun fact, Francesca is in the same gas station that we saw Jesse at in Breaking Bad when he bribed the gas station worker with drugs, along with Hank following up by looking at the ATM camera. Francesca didn't need to take the call, but she kept her word and Gene made sure that she would with the promise of more money.
First things first.
No, I believe we agreed after.
I'm hanging up.
Okay then, jeez.
Francesca tells Gene that she's not speaking to him until she gets her payment, to which Gene tells her where to find it. Gene tells her that if she's facing the phone to turn right, but she's facing away from the phone, so she looks to her left. I like how she's probably facing away from the phone due to being paranoid that she's being watched, something that Gene doesn't consider when he says this. Also, Francesca finding the money reminds me of the end of Shawshank Redemption, I guess spoilers for that movie, in regards to Red finding what Andy left for him under the iconic oak tree along with buried under a rock, similar to Francesca finding the fishing line under a rock. Gene asking Francesca how hot is in reference to Ed the Disappear asking Gene the same thing in the season 5 Gene scene, along with the 405 flash forward or any other time that Ed has worked with a client during Breaking Bad in El Camino or Better Call Saul.
How hot are you?
How hot? Red hot. Well, tell me, how hot?
How hot?
Yeah.
Francesca says that she still gets followed, although not as often as when shit first hit the fan, but she still sees authorities tailing her. She also says how her mail gets opened, and that her phone lines are tapped, implying that the DEA and probably FBI have been keeping a close eye on her ever since Saul disappeared, as we saw in the 405 flash forward, along with the penultimate episode of Breaking Bad Granite State. Francesca admits that Skylar White got her deal, and that the only ones left to go after are Saul and Pinkman. This small detail about Skylar is huge, which implies that the bodies of Hank and Gomi were found, and that things somewhat worked out for Skylar in the end.
Skylar White got her deal, so the only ones left to go after are you and Pinkman, and I heard they found his car down by the border, so adios, dopehead.
Oh, so they're still into me.
Francesca then says how the authorities found Pinkman's car down by the Mexican border, referencing how Badger took the car and dumped it near the Mexican border in El Camino to make it look like Jesse fled south to Mexico, when in reality he fled north to Alaska, as we saw at the end of El Camino.
Badger drives my T-Bird 200-300 miles away and ditches it. Leave it near the border. Hide it, kinda, but yo, don't hide it so good the cops can't find it. Wipe it down for prints, then hitchhike back. Do not let nobody see you in that car. You got about 3 hours to get this thing down south. Keep my mouth shut till then, but after that,
They're gonna be putting the APB out on this bitch.
I'll get her there.
Bottom line, this confirms to Gene that the authorities are still after him due to being affiliated with the Heisenberg case. Gene then asks about the nail salon, the vending machine, and the laser tag place, referencing all of his money laundering businesses that he had set up during Breaking Bad. Francesca breaks the news to Gene that the feds found them all. Francesca also coldly tells Gene that she coughed up his overseas account with $850,000 to the feds, as she didn't appreciate him leaving it under her name without even giving her a heads up.
You did what? Why would you do that?
You put my name on the board of a fictional corporation. I had to give it up. I didn't really have a choice. And a heads up would have been nice, by the way.
It's possible that Saul became motivated to open an overseas account to stash his money due to what Kim said to Lalo in the Breaking Bad episode 509, Bad Choice Road.
Let's say there was an overseas account, Antigua and Barbuda.
Tigerfish Corporation, $850K. I gave it to the feds.
But next time you have a bunch of money, try a wire transfer, try a shell company, or you've heard of the Cayman Islands, right? Jesus, get your shit together.
Francesca once again tries to hang up, but Gene keeps grasping at straws to keep her talking to him to get any more information out of her that he can. Gene is also desperate to talk to her due to being so lonely. Even though Francesca is hardly even considered a friend, he really wants to keep talking to her due to the fact that she's someone from his previous life, meaning that she's the only one that he can talk about his previous life to after so long in hiding. This reminds me of Jimmy telling Mike in episode 509, Bad Choice Road, that Mike's the only person that Jimmy can talk to in regards to the situation in the desert during episode 508, Bagman.
I can't believe there's like over 1 billion people on this planet. And the only person I have to talk about this to is you.
Gene being desperate to continue talking to Francesca also reminds me of Walt paying Ed the Disappear to hang out with him while Walt was in hiding during the end of Breaking Bad. These characters are just so isolated that they'll do almost anything to have any kind of social interaction when they can. Gene asks how QB is, to which Francesca says that she has no idea. QB, of course, played by Bill Burr, who is unable to appear in Better Call Saul due to being too busy, even though the creators tried getting him on the show multiple times. Francesca saying how she has no idea what QB's up to could be a subtle nod to the fact that we never saw him in Better Call Saul. Gene then asks about Huel, causing Francesca to give us the answer to the biggest meme question that came out in Breaking Bad: did Huel ever leave the safe house? Francesca admits that Huel is back home in New Orleans after being temporarily taken to a safe house by Hank and Gomi during Breaking Bad Season 5. Francesca adds that Huel was held under false pretenses, causing Huel to be able to walk out of the entire situation a free man. There was actually a short webisode series following Huel's situation, waiting in the safe house leading up to the release for the El Camino movie. During that webisode series, it was implied that Huel waited in the safe house up until he saw the shootout at Jack's place during the final Breaking Bad episode, implying that Huel waited in the safe house for 6 whole months while Walt was in hiding. We never knew if that was officially canon, but episode 611 of Better Call Saul confirms to us that Huel did eventually leave the safe house, although it is unconfirmed how long he actually waited there for.
Screw this.
I love how Better Call Saul gave us an answer to it, considering that Huel waiting in the safe house from season 5 of Breaking Bad was a loose end that turned into quite a big meme. Gene then asks about Danny and Orira, referencing the conversation that Saul had with Walt in regards to every money laundering business needing a Danny in order to keep the operation running.
Besides, this dump isn't gonna work because it doesn't have a Danny. Okay, there's no Danny here.
What in God's name is a Danny?
Danny runs the laser tag. Danny will look the other way to keep his dream afloat. In other words, Danny can be trusted completely.
Francesca asks if he has internet where he is, implying that he could have just looked up their names to find out that they've most likely been arrested in connection to his money laundering businesses. It's heavily implied that the original Danny that Gene/Saul has referenced is actually Daniel Price Wormald from Better Call Saul, which has been a popular theory throughout the entire run of Better Call Saul. Francesca then tells Gene that Bill Oakley switched sides, causing Gene to misinterpret that as Oakley coming out of the closet. Francesca corrects him by saying how Oakley switched from being a prosecutor to a defense attorney. This was foreshadowed by the fact that we saw an advertisement for Bill Oakley on a bench that Francesca drove past earlier in the episode while driving to the payphone. I see that Oakley has taken one out of Saul's book in regards to advertising, and it makes me wonder if all the Saul Goodman bench ads have been taken over by Oakley. Gene then asks Francesca how she's doing herself, to which Francesca sarcastically says how the prince proposed and how her private jet is flying her out to the palace soon. This clearly implies that she's not living up to the luxurious lifestyle that she thought working for Saul would bring bring her. Good old bitter, jaded Francesca, she's still got the same sense of dry humor. When Gene finally admits that this is really it, Francesca can hear the depression in his voice and tries to cheer him up by mentioning that she did get one phone call, Kim. She says how Kim called Francesca to check on her after everything went down, and that Kim asked if Jimmy was still alive and if he was okay. This definitely piques Gene's interest, as he sounds surprised that Kim asked about him. Kim clearly saw the news about the Heisenberg case, and I can only imagine what her reaction was. I have a full video breakdown discussing when Gene tries to call Kim on the same payphone after his phone call with Francesca, and I'll have that video linked at the end of this video. Speaking of which, with the conversation coming to an end, Gene then reluctantly says that this is goodbye, implying that this is the last time that they'll ever be able to speak. But before he can even finish his sentence, we hear how Francesca has already hung up the payphone on the other end. Classic Francesca. This also parallels Saul saying goodbye to Francesca in the Breaking Bad flash forward during Better Call Saul 405.
Guess, that's it.
Yep.
Oh, okay, well, I guess this is goodbye. Hello? Hello?
I love how much info we got about the post-Breaking Bad timeline. This was such an important scene in regards to getting tons of exposition for what's happened since Breaking Bad has ended, and we got it all in one huge info dump. The post-Breaking Bad timeline has been incredibly mysterious up to this point, with the only times that we've seen anything post-Breaking Bad being Gene up until season 4 Better Call Saul. We did get the El Camino movie, but that was mostly just focused on Jesse and his story, and now with this phone call, we're getting a lot of loose ends tied up in regards to Huel, Skyler, etc. Let me know what you thought about the Gene/Francesca phone call in the comments below. Did this give you a satisfying answer to the mysterious phone call that we've been wondering about for years ever since episode 405? I'm quite content with it, as it gave us so much Breaking Bad information, along with the fact that even though the phone call wasn't about Kim, she does get mentioned, and it does lead into Gene trying to contact her, which, as I previously said, I already have a video discussing. I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today. If you're new to the channel and just haven't yet already, subscribe and hit that bell notification to stay updated on when I post new content on Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Check out my Patreon or give a super thanks to help support the channel financially, I'd really appreciate it. But most importantly, I thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Yeah, okay, well, I guess that's it then. What about you? How are you doing?
I'm just great. Prince Rainier proposed. The private jet is taking us to the palace on Thursday.